Welcome back, everybody, to the show. I am your host, as always, Jay Villain, aka That Villain Jay. And tonight we have a very special treat for you. Yes, we do. Because we are doing a lore episode. We're going to be talking about some things that people wanted to request on the Patreon and on the Patreon Discord. I believe Dante Funny Valentine said he would like to learn a little bit more about Planeswalkers and what Planeswalkers are, and Planeswalking in general, Sparks. And I said, well, yeah, that's good. That's kind of a short explanation, because I could explain that in 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
But I said, well, this all kind of ties together with the way that the lore of MTG is going right now with Aetherdrift and everything else. So we're going to be doing a little bit of... We're going to start one place and go to else, just like Planeswalking. So, as always, I think I forgot to say, with me as always is the numbest of skulls, Mr. Numbskull himself right here, who is very much not a lore guy. I am the lore guy of this one.
I'm the ask questions so that the audience gets more information guy.
Exactly. He's also the he's the competitive player out of two of us. I don't go to RCQs. I sit home and read.
I can't read.
Exactly. No. Which, you know, when you're playing, when you're playing meta decks, you don't need to. You just need to match the colors with the other colors, and you're pretty much
just cast demons.
Just cast demons. Stuff. Yeah. Just, I mean, we all know red players can't read. We just make big number.
They can count, but they can't read.
They can't, yeah. So, and just barely counting. That's about
just a 20. Just a 20. That's all.
Well, about 3. I think that's the only amount of mana that they ever really want. So.
Oh, I see. Yeah, sure.
So, red players catching strays. Anyways, so we're going to be doing a little bit, and we're going to be, Numbskull is going to be asking some questions. I've been doing this lore for a long time. I used to read the really crappy paperback books of Magic the Gathering, like from the 90s when I was a wee lad. So I've been following the lore and history of this for a long time. I'm not a lore master. I'm not Ristic Studies. Who was gonna like go and interview the family of an artist and get like all of the he goes and gets the bar napkins from where people hung out after the Grand Prix in 1999. But I know enough to entertain you guys. So
yeah,
that's what we're going to be doing tonight. We're going to be talking about Planeswalkers, Planeswalking, Omenpaths, Aetherdrift, how all this ties together and what it all means, and hopefully help you understand a little bit more of the world of Magic the Gathering. So first things first, we want to say thank you for coming, and we want to say thank you for all of our patrons right here. Absolutely. As you know, this was a suggestion by one of our patrons, and you can suggest lore video episodes too, and we might pick it. You can suggest decks, you can come to all that stuff. So if you want a video from us, the way you can get it is by joining the Black Council.
Yeah, and I think soon we'll be having. We did like a unofficial poll, but I think we'll do like an actual poll in the council Discord here soon, and kind of get an idea of episodes that the council wants. But we wanted to make sure that this year, you guys talked about it enough, especially like more in the second half of the year as this kind of got a little bigger. You guys talked definitely more about okay, hey, let's do this. Let's do an episode on this. Let's do this. Let's do that. So we wanted to make sure that before the year ended, we got one in that the council itself had requested. So because you guys have a voice in this too, which is part of it.
Absolutely.
So I'll read our council members to you. We read them every episode. You can join for as little as $1 a month, or $1 an episode, whatever you prefer. You will get exclusive access to the council videos up to 24 hours before they air on YouTube. You'll be able to view them on Patreon. So just wanted to make you aware of that. You also get exclusive council member content in the Patreon, and you'll get access to our exclusive Discord for paid council members as well. So for $1 a month, Jay and I like to think that we give you a pretty good amount of stuff. If you don't think that's good enough, fine. We're just happy that anybody's watching at all. So here we go. Patrons, we've got Neptune, Mez Undead. We've got Vin Ganji, Zyron, Jason Flood, Just the One, Larry Mitchell, Jay Langford, Metal Mechanic, Notorious D, Deadfast, Argent Icon, W. Taylor, L. Van Breems, Xylo Beast, Jamel Langford, Trexodactyl, Lord Gypticus, the Flipticus, Mamulian, Cassius, Nickel Nuts, Ulfveer, Dante Valentine, Savrit, and Clever Sound. Thank you all so much for sticking with us as long as you have, especially some of those guys who've been here as long as they have. We really appreciate it. Couldn't do this without you. And you may notice that like our format here looks a little different for how we're presenting this to you.
Our studio is different.
Yeah, we had to get a new studio because you heard Jay and I complaining how they doubled the rent on us. So this is our first episode in the new studio. We're trying it out. They let us do a 1 month rental trial run to see if we like it. So we're gonna see how we like it and see if you guys like it. And if it goes well, then we'll maybe pick up a lease here and we'll have a new $1 million studio on the internet.
So we're going to be using this for at least 1 month because we bought 1 month. Yeah, our last studio, little inside baseball. Basically, I got an email that said, bad news is we doubled the amount we're charging you, and also I just charged you right now. I just charged your credit card double the amount that you were expecting. Good news is we added a bunch of features you're never going to use, like
you're welcome.
AI integration, which is like, what do we, And
so
I was like,
we're not big fans of AI.
Yeah, we're not. We don't need any of that. We just need to record us talking.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, but dynamic multi-studio. I'm like, okay. So, so we changed. So we're trying a different place right now. If you like it, if you don't like it, I realize we're still trying to figure out how it works. So bear with us. Pardon our dust, as they say.
Jay literally signed. He asked me what it was, and then 15 minutes later, he's like sending me a link to join the room. He's like, okay, I bought a month. So we literally I think this is Jay's first time ever seeing / using this. I used it briefly, but Jay usually does he mans the production portion of it, typically, especially because he edits. So whatever Jay wants for that, I let him do his thing. But
so we'll see.
We're gonna see. So far, we don't hate it.
Yeah, we don't hate it. I think that a lot of the features are locked behind another paywall, which I'm not crazy about.
Naturally,
but we'll see how the final product comes out. But let us know how you feel about it, and if you have any suggestions, use any podcast software, recording software. Let us know. This is the third thing that we've used so far. But also at the bottom there, you're going to see our name, which is our link, which is patreon.com/theblackcouncil. We'll also have it in the pinned link if you want to go join the Patreon. So
yes,
easy enough. All that stuff right there. That all being said, let's get into some of the lore. We have Aetherdrift coming up. This is kind of where the end point where we want to end up. Aetherdrift is going to be a multiplanar race going through the Omenpaths, where what you win by winning the race is the Aether Spark, which is, you might not know what any of those things are, and frankly, a lot of people don't, because that's all kind of new jargon. It's going through 3 different planes, which is Merganda, Amonkhet, Avishkar, and Merganda.
And Avishkar is a new name for something, right?
Kaladesh. Yeah,
okay.
We can talk about that too. We'll get into that. Stay tuned for the Kaladesh controversy. We'll talk about that. So, first things first, I'm sure you guys have heard of the word Planeswalker.
Yep.
Okay. If you've played Magic, you've heard what a Planeswalker is, because it's a type of card. It didn't always used to be a card.
Right.
Planeswalkers were introduced in the 2000s. Okay. Probably about almost 15 years into Magic's life. Almost about halfway through. Wow. That is the card. The original concept behind Magic is that the players were the Planeswalkers. You were 2 Planeswalkers doing a duel, okay? And what you were doing is you were bringing lands up that you could tap the power from, okay? So you were like raising a mountain up and then sucking the power out of it to do something. And summoning creatures from different locations. They would just pop out of, if you needed a war elephant, there would be a war elephant sitting somewhere, and when you summoned it, it got sucked away and then got to your battlefield where it would fight the other person. So you were 2 extremely powerful interplanar wizards called Planeswalkers dueling each other. That is what the concept behind Magic was. The player and the opponent were both planeswalkers who could use mana to cast spells, extremely powerful spells, and use summons, and do all that stuff. That is the most basic understanding of a planeswalker. We started getting, and planeswalkers also used to be almost god level. Not capital G, but small g. Okay? They were extremely powerful. They could visit. The main thing, the reason that they were planeswalkers is they could jump from plane to plane, meaning they could go from Dominaria to Urgathoa to to Serra. They could move around to Phyrexia. Whatever plane they wanted to, they could will themselves to go through the Blind Eternities, which is basically the space in between planes. It's like an empty space. It's actually where the Eldrazi are from. They're from the Blind Eternities. It's like a null space. And being able to do that, they could basically go wherever they want and do whatever they want. They were unbelievably powerful. So the idea behind that you could summon planeswalkers, they were introduced in Lorwyn. You could summon ones to aid you. They became a card. All right. So essentially they had loyalty counters and they were powered down a little bit. The idea that planeswalkers were gods who could create their own realms of existence, who could create their own planes. For example, the planeswalker Serra made the realm of where all the angels were from, where you get Serra Angel from. That's why she's called Serra Angel. She basically made heaven. That planeswalker Serra made the angels in all heaven and all that. I mean, even we're talking about the level of power. You talk about somebody, a planeswalker like, what's that vampire's name who I just forgot?
Sorin?
Sorin, there we go. One right out of my head. All I could think of was Baron von Sengir. I was like, it's not Sengir, it's Sorin. He created Avacyn. He created angels as well. He created all of Avacyn and all of the different things. So he essentially created one of the gods of humanity on Innistrad. He was incredibly powerful as well. So we're talking about beings of incredible power who could do crazy things because they could tap. They could tap the mana. They could tap ley lines of mana existing the way that mana works. That's how they can do it. There's other wizards. There's like wizards and things that use magic in the magic setting, but they use it the classical way. They go, I'm casting Fireball. A planeswalker can tap 5 different mountain ranges and pull all of the energy within them and create a nuclear weapon that completely destroys a town. Or summons a monster or summons a dragon. A regular wizard can't do that. A planeswalker can. So that is the difference in scale between just a regular wizard or mage or whatever and a planeswalker. And the Urza was a planeswalker, very famous one. Mishra was a planeswalker, very famous one. I believe, I don't know if it's ever confirmed, but we're pretty sure that Yawgmoth was a planeswalker as well, I believe.
Okay.
He certainly had aspirations beyond his plane. I don't know if he could individually planeswalk. I believe so. Extremely powerful people that shape the fate of entire planes and frankly the multiverse. So that is what a planeswalker is. It kind of started as the player and it slowly turned into more characters, and then you could summon them and they would help you in your fight. But the mechanic of them summoning you, they had to power them down because you couldn't put a creature on the board. You couldn't put any kind of piece on the board in Magic that was going to obliterate the other person or create an entire realm of existence of the scale and level that planeswalkers used to exist on within the game. So they kind of had to be cooled down a little bit, as it were, to exist within the game, which to me, planeswalkers are like a new mechanic. They seem newfangled to me because I played so many years without them. So yeah.
I know there's like a boomer take that like planeswalkers ruined Magic, like adding them to the game.
Yes,
there are people who say that.
Yes, and this is why I'm less concerned about XYZ ruining Magic or whatever when you hear that.
You've lived through it all already.
I've lived through people talking about that.
Yeah. It doesn't faze you anymore.
No, I mean, I heard people. I didn't really like them at first either. I rarely ever used them. I still don't use them that frequently. There's very few that I think
there's
are.
like a couple that are good that are just like, okay, yeah, this is I should do this. But yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So I've seen that happen. So that is essentially what a planeswalker is. Their most powerful aspect is that they can jump realities. Just having that, I mean, having that ability, you could basically do whatever you want in one reality and jump to another one. Because you have that planeswalking ability is in and of itself, aside from all the magic and mana tapping you can do, that isn't crazy powerful anywhere else, because I mean, you could make yourself rich and powerful just because of that. You could take something from one plane and jump to another plane and be like, look, this is from another universe.
I discovered Google.
Exactly. So you could also avoid consequence, which is also a big problem, which you could go, if you ended up being a warlord and killing a bunch of people, you could be about to lose and just go, jump I'll just go somewhere else and try again and escape things. So there's a lot of potential there. It makes you an incredibly powerful and incredibly important person in the multiverse scheme. So, continue. I know you were about to say something.
I was just gonna say that while we're still on the topic of planeswalkers, because I know we're gonna like transition into some things. I also wanted to, because you were talking about when they were introduced, and this is maybe the little bit that I have to contribute to this episode. A lot of cards, they were like, the ruling on targets was modified once planeswalkers were introduced. So there were cards that say like deal damage to target player, but like Jay was saying, a planeswalker is a player, or like a player is a planeswalker. So if some of the older cards that were printed before the addition of planeswalkers have an expanded judge ruling where if they say target player, they are also allowed to target a planeswalker, because a planeswalker in a game of Magic is considered like another player.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I learned that when I played Modern, because there's a card called Soul Spike, and it's from a very old set. I don't even remember what set. And it says deals 4 damage to target player. I think it's like player or creature, maybe. I'd have to look, but because it says target player, they then modified it when Planeswalkers came out. The ruling on that was changed where you can target Planeswalkers with that card, although it doesn't say it, because Wizards explicitly said, well, our intention is that if it says player, then that includes the Planeswalker, and you can apply that ruling to cards printed like retroactively before Planeswalkers. So there was, and for people who play Eternal formats, I think that's interesting, because there may be some older cards that like have you change the ruling, and you have to be aware of that. So I think now it's very explicit. If it says this, it means that, and they'll print what they say, but they actually retroactively modified rulings to include Planeswalkers on older cards that were printed before they came out. So I just thought that was an interesting thing to include as the person who plays, the competitive side.
Oh yeah, that's mechanically, it also helps explain. It ties in what you said. It's like another player on the board.
It helps doing things. That's how it was taught to me. It was like, what's a planeswalker? And they were like, well, think of it as another player, but like they're like on your team. You know what I mean? Because
you, the player, are a planeswalker.
Exactly. So like if you cast it, okay, like you brought them there. But I guess like technically, like if you make a wrong decision, a planeswalker could hurt you technically. You know what I mean? Or like if a player, or like what is it, Davriel, where like you have to like accept his conditions to do the things, and sometimes like that can make you lose life. That could make you whatever. That could make your creatures weaker. It can make you sacrifice a creature, whatever. So there are like, the planeswalker can require you to do things that hurt yourself, but then if you use them properly, then you'll ultimately hopefully benefit and have a better chance to win.
Okay, interesting. So that's a good way of thinking about it. So Planeswalkers function off of something called a Planeswalker spark. They have something in them called a spark. A person's spark, they may never know they're a Planeswalker. Generally speaking, high stress is what ignites a Planeswalker spark. Other things can do it, near-death experiences, but generally high stress, extreme situations set off a Planeswalker spark, and they will randomly jump to another plane. All of a sudden, it will it's like an instinct that allows them to avoid death. Like they'll be in a huge battle and a dragon will come and somebody kills the dragon and the dragon drops down on the battlefield and explodes because it's full of explosive dragon fire or whatever.
It's kind of like a superhero type thing where they all have that moment.
They have that moment and they'll planeswalk to survive, and they'll wake up and they'll go, where the hell am I? And they were fighting, werewolves on Innistrad, and then they wake up and they're in, somewhere else. They're in the middle of Ravnica, in the middle of the town square, and they're like, what the hell? So that is what they use. They use a Planeswalker spark to jump around. This is interesting. We won't go too much into sparks right now, other than Nicol Bolas in War of the Spark. You may have heard of this. It was a Magic the Gathering set. He was trying to harvest a bunch of people's sparks to turn himself into a god. He was trying to suck out all of the sparks of all the Planeswalkers. He put out the Interplanar Beacon, quick TLDR. He put out an Interplanar Beacon that said, all Planeswalkers come here. It attracted everyone. Then he put up the Immortal Sun, which makes them unable to jump away.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then he opened the Planar Bridge, which he got from Avishkar, aka Kaladesh, and invaded. Then he used the invasion army to try to suck out everyone's souls so he could ascend to godhood and become the god of all magic, etc., so forth. Evil scheme, what have you. So it is an incredible source of power, and apparently you can de-spark people. This is where we learned about this. There's actually a card called De-Spark. You may have used it before.
Oh, yeah. That was the Mystical Archive in Strixhaven. That was like really cool art.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So, and it has a picture of Nicol Bolas on it in the Mystical Archive. So, De-Spark. So we know that this can happen. You can get, and it will kill you if that happens. It'll sucks your soul out, essentially. So he was trying to harvest Planeswalker souls to do this. And then he could become a Mega Planeswalker. He could become the god of... He was a Planeswalker himself. He was a Planeswalking dragon.
Was he able to successfully take anyone's spark in that endeavor?
Like he did. He was in the process of killing a lot of people. Then he got interrupted. Yeah,
okay.
A bunch of people did die. Yeah, they got their...
The Planeswalkers got de-sparked in that process.
They did not just lose their spark. They got killed and their soul sucked out and sucked into him. Yeah. So it was very bad. He was doing a lot of evil stuff. He's a bad guy. So yeah, people did die. They kind of had to go through a process. It wasn't just happening spontaneously. Like the Lazotep monsters from Amonkhet had to grab you and like do something to you. So it wasn't like you went down. He didn't snap his finger like Thanos and it happened. It was like complicated. So that all being said, jump ahead to another interplanetary invasion. We have jump cut to War of New Phyrexia. The War of the Machine, the March of the Machine. Elish Norn is up to something. She's invading everyone with the giant World Tree invasion. She is using the World Tree. She basically created an insane World Tree from Kaladesh. She created her own Phyrexianized version that grew roots, invasion paths into every single plane simultaneously. Okay, so she invaded New Phyrexia, invaded every single plane in the multiverse simultaneously by burrowing through using something called kind of Omenpaths. They were the way that people used to jump around the mini planes in Kaladesh, in Kaldheim. That's how they jumped around between the different planes in Kaldheim. She made miniature versions of that using the tree that connected everything, the world tree that existed in Kaldheim.
And then, chronologically speaking, that took place after the Nicol Bolas thing?
This was after, yes. This was after the War of the Spark. We jump ahead to down the road. We have the War of the Machine.
I know sometimes they jump around chronologically, so I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, War of the Spark. Then it was War of the Spark. Then things settled down for a little bit.
Okay.
Then the War of the Machine happened. The Phyrexian stuff happened.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
there's like multiple instances of desparks and attempted desparking.
Yes.
And we have bad actors, so to speak, organizing that and using different like mediums within multiverses to do it.
Yes. The thing is that that's what the Gatewatch is. If you've ever heard of the Gatewatch and you know our main characters, Nisa, Chandra,
is Gideon in that?
Gideon, who died.
Okay.
Liliana to a lesser extent. Jace, Belleran, Vraska, all these people that were famous planeswalkers were part of the Gatewatch, and they protected the balance of the multiverse.
Okay.
Yeah.
And those are your more famous ones then?
Those are your famous ones, and they're the heroic cast of characters. And then there's a rogues gallery.
Okay.
Anytime there's a major multi-planar threat, like the Eldrazi invaded multiple planes, you know, the Eldrazi came out and they had to fight them off. You know, that was a big event. And then, of course, there was the Dragon Break in messing around with time in Khans of Tarkir. That was a big event. The Innistrad invasion. Yeah, all these things, they always happen, and the Gatewatch has to come together and try to balance things out. So
that's pretty cool. Okay.
So the latest calamity, the reason that I bring up the Phyrexian invasion, is that the multiversal attack on everything did damage to the multiverse. You can't go poking that many holes without leaving some sort of problem. Okay? So this invasion tree, which is an actual card you may or may not know, very popular in mill decks, the invasion tree, spread out and put its branches in everything. That's what you see in the art. You see those crazy kind of metal worm looking things, those metal branch root things in a bunch of card arts in the invasion. That's what's spreading outward. It's coming through the holes in the sky and stuff.
And that's like Phyrexianizing stuff? Or?
It's Phyrexianizing entire planes. That's what Elish Norn means when she says all will be one. She literally means that. Everything will be Phyrexia.
Okay, sure.
Through the completion of the entire multiverse. So Elspeth comes back. She says, "Fuck no! I'm gonna God smite you." And
Elspeth smite.
She used Elspeth's smite. Elspeth's literal business is killing gods, so it was a bad person to pick a fight with. So that happens. We won't go into the details of that because I think we already did one with Phyrexian and the Praetors. If you want to watch our previous episode,
there's a previous lore episode. Yeah,
there's a lore episode all about the Praetors and Phyrexians that you can watch. Jump ahead. Now we're laying the groundwork. So now, after the March of the Machine, the War of Phyrexia, New Phyrexia, Phyrexia is sealed away, but the damage has been done to the multiverse. This has led to two different things. A bunch of people at the end, a bunch of planeswalkers at the end of March of the Machine got desparked, meaning they did not die, but they suddenly felt that they could not plane jump anymore, which led to a lot of people being stranded on random ass planes that they weren't used to. If you were Garruk Wildspeaker, you were fighting people you're originally from one place, but you ended up fighting people on Ravnica because that's where they needed you to go fight Phyrexians, and all of a sudden you got desparked. You couldn't leave.
You got stuck there, yeah.
You got stuck there. You got stuck in a random ass plane that may have not been your home plane. It was so chaotic. It was theorized that I can't remember who said it. I think it was Ral. I can't remember who said it, but they were doing somebody who was good at interplanar things and understanding magic said that basically the energy went somewhere else. It wasn't destroyed because you can't destroy energy, right? You can only move it around. And where it basically went, that planeswalker energy is into something called Omenpaths.
Okay.
You may have seen this on a card called Enter the Omenpaths.
I think I have seen that.
Yeah, you may have not because you don't play blue cards, and that's a blue card. Or Into the Omenpaths, actually, it is.
Oh, Into. Okay, that sounds a little.
Yeah.
I know there's a card that has the word Omenpath on it. That's
yes.
recent.
Yeah. So what an omen path is that is a stable stable bridge between planes.
Okay.
It is kind of locked one place to another. You can't kind of dial it in. It's not a Stargate. It says, okay, we found an omen path here. It goes from Ravnica to Avishgar. That's
It's like a portal, so to speak.
It's a portal system. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It's a little dangerous to use. It's not like the most easiest thing to go through. It's a hard voyage, but you can still occasionally you could put a bunch of people through it. You could put stuff through it. You could go from Kamigawa to Urgathoa, which are two very different locations, and all of a sudden they're having interchangeable. You could go from New Capenna to somewhere else, New Capenna to wherever, New Capenna to Innistrad, which obviously are very different places. Innistrad is very rural and kind of superstitious, and New Capenna is like a big city.
Yeah.
So now there's only a few people left that are sparked. There's a very few planeswalkers that have spark. Most of them got desparked, and this energy has now gone into Omenpaths. Part of the reason that people are going out into Thunder Junction is a bunch of Omenpaths led there. For whatever reason, it ended up being kind of a terra null. People went there, a random portal opened to this unforeseen place that nobody really knew about called Thunder Junction, and people were like, there's like nobody here, it's an empty desert.
Okay.
And well, it's full of resources, there's some cactuses, there's some animals, there's nobody here, so let's use this as kind of a hideout, because it has a lot of omen paths on it, and we can build a big city where all the omen paths are kind of near so that people can jump around. So that's like the Badlands, you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
So you had people coming from New Capenna to build trains out there. You had people coming from Avishgar to bring technology and, gear and all kind of stuff like that and other things. And so that's why Thunder Junction ended up being what it is, to tie that in all with a nice bow. So any questions so far? Let's get you into this one. I've been talking for a long time. Let's hear from you.
So the idea was that Thunder Junction would be continually used then, and like, do we have plans now to use it in the future with the lore coming up?
I think so. I think that I hope it does. I hope we get more Thunder Junction stuff, because I like Thunder Junction despite everyone kind of crapping on it. I think the idea is that it is going to be kind of a way station going forward.
I think that maybe if more people knew that what the purpose of it was, then they might have a little bit more interest in it. It feels like because I didn't know that till now, and I mean, maybe that's on me to look it up, but maybe a lot of people don't know the relevance of that as a plane, and they're like, "Oh, you guys just wanted to do a cowboy set." I think it's easy to just like jump to that if you don't know anything about the practical use within the story of Magic altogether of that plane. So I think that's really useful information. Not quite a question, but just an observation. You know what I mean? Based on that, it's kind of like that makes me more interested in Thunder Junction as a plane. Really, when I didn't have much interest in it, because I felt like I didn't know anything about it, and I felt like it didn't have any. I feel like as a plane, I didn't see that it had any relevance to the story. So I think it's good to know that,
Yeah, and I think that is the problem, is that the story isn't that well communicated. That is part of the reason. That's what Omenport is. If you remember, cards called Omenport.
Okay.
And I think there's even a land called Omenport, whatever.
No, there's Fountainport.
Fountainport, no, not Fountainport. That's different. So basically, the Omenport is a little town that they build with an unusual number of omen paths near it. Okay. So it's like an interplanar way station.
Okay.
And there's a bigger town nearby, but you have to get on a train and go to that. So it's like the airport, almost like a reception, leaving and going of. So you can go there, like let's say, I want to go to Kamigawa, but I'm in New Capenna. I have to go to the Omenport.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
and then I'll
your
go
train
somewhere else.
station,
You're traveling, so that's
I got
why
it.
that's why we have this kind of fringy kind of backwater transfer station feeling of Thunder Junction.
So it's almost like if they made a town or a city that was like centered around an airport or train station.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And I don't know what town to compare that to in America or city. I'm not that familiar with, you know what I mean? But yes, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. So
Yeah.
it's like a travel hub, if you will.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. That's pretty cool. And I get it. It doesn't have this like very flashy role in the lore.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see why maybe that gets swept under the rug. Maybe it's not that exciting to talk about. But I feel like it's worth knowing, and you have to like give that the respect it deserves and relevance to the story in general if you cared to know about it.
Exactly. And the fun thing is that, like I said, there's a lot of money to be made. You know, if I have a bunch of Halo from New Capenna and I want to go sell it for 10 times the price in I want to go sell it for 10 times the price in Kamigawa because they're nuts about the crap there. I got to travel through probably Omenport, and I got to go through Thunder Junction. Well, what happens when you have a bunch of cargo? People are going to want to steal it. So you get outlaws. You get the outlaws at Thunder Junction.
Okay. Yeah.
And then
of
you
course.
need, what do you got to do? You got to hire mercenaries to protect it. So now you got to hire people to maintain order and that are going to protect it. So you have a whole thing set up. That was the whole idea behind Outlaws of Thunder Junction, which I think, given retrospective, was a pretty nifty idea. But it is relying entirely on this idea of omen ports, that these stable portals between planes, building out.
And they were banking on you knowing that in order for you to care about the story.
Yes.
So I think that's relevant to know. I'll be honest. Whenever they come out with the stories of the lore for each set, I kind of like maybe read it for like a minute or two, and then I just kind of, I just kind of get bored.
I actually really like, and I like the way that I've always done the story is I kind of read it, but I also really just like reading all of the cards, like literally every card in the set, and piecing together the little bits of information that we
gives
get
you as a story.
That is a very fun way of doing lore that Magic has done for many years. Mm-hmm. You would read the flavor text on a card, and it would say, none were ever grander. The castle of Thormenbrar was a great bastion of humanity, but finally fell when the Dark Reavers came. And you're like, whoa, that's a little part of a story. Mm-hmm. And then you'll get another card that's called Dark Reaver Scion, and you're like, well, this guy's a Dark Reaver.
I see.
Did he take over that castle?
Yeah.
And then you'll get another card that's like the Broken Sword of Castle whatever, and it's like, oh, okay, so this is the sword that was used in that castle fight. You're blurry again, Numbskull, by the way. You kind of piece together lore, and there's a very famous way of doing this thing that got popularized recently. It's called Dark Souls. Dark Souls does its lore this way. Dark Souls doesn't tell you anything. You will pick up a sword or a shield or a scrap or a piece of armor, and it'll say, worn by the Knight Captain of Boletaria before the fall. And you're like, okay, well, what does any of that mean? You know what I mean? That's how it would give you a little scrap of information, and then and you would just kind of have to piece together the story of what the hell is going on, because it doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't. No NPC goes, welcome, this is what happened in the world, and you can do this. You just kind of wake up. And so getting into Magic cards used to be, you just read these little snippets. You read these one or two lines of a hint of a larger story in them, and it was fun to try to kind of piece this all together.
Okay, that's good to know too, because that like gives you more of a reason to read flavor text, which people like read it and they just like see if it makes them laugh or see if it has like a sexual innuendo or something, you know what I mean? And then they just like, that's it. They don't look at it again. Or they're like, oh, that sounds cool, but they don't think about its relevance to the rest of the other cards, the rest of the set. At least that's kind of how I do it. So that's good to know. So you can actually like piece it together that way, which I think is maybe more engaging for me when you make it like a puzzle, as opposed to just like me having to sit there and like just read stuff, because I don't like doing that.
Yeah, and
So
that was
sounds
always
cool.
that was always the fun part to kind of, again. So what I'm trying to say is, truly, Magic cards is the Dark Souls of lore.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I like it. I like that.
You get these little scraps and pieces. And back in the day, listen, and we didn't have the internet. We couldn't go online and look up things.
That was kind of all you had.
You had in the 90s, you just had
Unless you had the book, right?
Yeah, you had some books, and the books didn't. There was nobody making sure that all that shit was canonical or made any sense together. There was no like overseer, lore master. People just put out books.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So things were kind of scattershot, and you just kind of made up your own. You filled in your blanks, and you went off of what your friends told you, and figured it all kind of out.
So with the books, there wasn't any quality control to make sure that it actually matched up with the story that Wizards was putting out?
Yes, but even now, even today, with lore masters,
yeah,
with the way everything, you can have a 40K book that will depict two things completely differently. You can go to like a Warhammer 40K book, and because it has two different authors, and one came out 3 years after the other one, they'll depict something completely different because the author said what felt like it. They're not nitpicking so hard on that. There was, in a sense, insofar as that it had an overall narrative structure, but things kind of were amorphous.
Okay.
And you kind of do what you kind of lampshade it the way that Warhammer 40K does. Is the old lore of Urza and the Phyrexians is lost to history. We don't exactly know what happened. We have only fragments and ideas. So if there's contradictory canonical lore, it's like, well, they're both true. They've fallen away to legend,
It's like, okay, and you want it to be that way to an extent because this has taken place over so much time.
Yeah.
That how could it ever be depicted properly?
Exactly. Like, even if, no matter what, it's always going to be seen through the lens of historical revision and everything like that. So it's never going to all the way make sense,
And that's probably doing more justice to just how history works in general.
Pretty
but
much,
also allows, I guess, in a way, for you to have like more freedoms when you're doing stuff. You could switch something up later because there's a precedent of context that where someone depicted it in the way that you want to represent it the next time you choose to represent it.
Exactly.
So that gives you something to come back to later if you need to, which I think can be helpful for a game that's been around 30 plus years.
Exactly. There's a lot of things. In Brothers War, I think retconned a couple of things. It clarified a few things. Brothers War showed a war that was always talked about and mentioned. The actual saga that we got was after Brothers War. You heard about imagine that the set that took place in the 90s. It took when we got the sets that were coming out, the early sets that were coming out in the 90s, it was like it was happening in 1950s America. It was like happening during the Cold War. We knew World War II had happened. A humongous calamitous event had happened. It looms over all of history like World War II does. Like the way that the whole world is structured, the nations, the nuclear powers, the Soviet Union, all of these major players, they all had a big fight, and now it's over, and it left the world in this state, and we're living in this new state of the world. That's kind of how it was. We never got to see World War II. We heard about it. We heard the effects of it. Brothers War went back and showed us World War II, basically. So
okay, that makes sense.
We had that kind of retcon, or that clarification, which also kind of contradicts things. It changed things around, but it added some, much needed kind of insight into a very big happening in Magic.
That sounds legit. I mean, because how can you go back to a plane if you can't switch things up a little bit? And
exactly.
And then it would just be boring.
Yeah, you become a slave to lore, unfortunately, and I think this is a problem that I think maybe even Star Wars is having right now.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of things have to happen in a
Star Wars
certain way.
seems very cut and dry.
Yeah, and people freak out if anything changes. They go, "Oh, lightsabers
dude.
don't work that way."
Or if you get something wrong, like people get really upset with Star Wars.
There's a date wrong. There's something weird. The Force doesn't work that way. It's very rigid, so it's good to have a little bit of flexibility in your lore.
Yeah, I like that. Now, do you think at some point you lack flexibility in general? So do you think that's part of why we're having to do like Universes Beyond stuff? Do you think that's part of it?
Universes Beyond? I don't think so. I think Universes Beyond is part of a larger symptom of everything is a crossover, and that's how money is made.
Sure.
I think that part of the reason that there's the Omenpaths now is they had to change, and a lot of people don't like Omenpaths the same way that they didn't like to change the Planeswalkers. I'm excited for it, and we'll get into the new Omenpath shenanigans that they're pulling here in a minute.
Yeah.
Because there's only so many times we can say, oh no, big monsters are coming through a portal, we better call the Planeswalkers together and go fight them. That has happened literally 4 times in a row. It was the Eldrazi. It was the Dragon Break. It was the Phyrexians. It was Nicol Bolas. Literally, like, the same thing happened over and over. And I like these experimental stories. How long could we keep doing that with the lore? Where, oh no, big monsters.
Like, what's your next big monster going to be? And then at what point does it seem like forced, or, oh, they're running out of ideas, or whatever? Because people are going to have something to say about it if you keep doing it.
And I think the funny things is a lot of the diehard fans and a lot of the Vorphoth fans are like, can you give us something completely new that also follows the exact same rules as previously laid down of 30 years worth of Magic? And it's like, that's kind of next to impossible. Like, it's very, very hard to do that.
Yeah. That's understandable.
That leads us, unironically, to the Omenpaths.
Yes.
Now, the Omenpaths are a fun way to explore multi-planar interaction that we never really had. Every plane was kind of its own bottle. The Planeswalkers could move around, but regular people couldn't. Now, because we have Omenpaths, people have said, what's the funnest, craziest shit that we could do? Because people will take a magical invention and be like, wow, we invented whatever. It's like it's the inevitable use of any technology will inevitably be used for pornography.
Exactly. Yeah. What is it? Rule 39 or something?
Yeah. Rule 34 is that.
34. Okay. Yeah.
Kind of that, but like a computer is like, wow, we can do research at triple the time and do calculations. It's like, we're gonna use it for porn. VR, we can completely simulate a new world.
Let's watch porn.
Yeah, oh wow, we have intercranial communication chips that let you completely upload their consciousness.
Let's fuck aliens.
Porn. Yeah, exactly. So obviously the first things are the crazy ass people of the different planes said, hey, there's a bunch of Omenpaths that go around. What if we made it a racetrack?
Well, there's porn, I guess. Or
what if, well, there's plenty of that going on too, I'm sure. I don't think they can depict that.
Okay.
I don't think the fuckfest block is going to be too popular. Where you're just going around and having sex with a bunch of different monsters.
Maybe that'll be what do they call it?
Unglued. Yeah.
Unglued or whatever.
It's just a giant brothel in what's that place in Thunder Junction that has like elves, dwarves, everyone, Phyrexians, if that's what you're into.
Oh yeah. I would be interested in some of the artwork from that for scientific purposes.
So Kaladesh Sheldrissy. Kaladesh basically said, we have all this technology. They had like mono wheels and trains and race cars and shit. What if we did a crazy Mad Max style race through 3 different planes, following a circuit, almost like a gumball? Do you remember? You know what a gumball is? Not so much as a Monaco circuit, but like a cross-continent rally race.
Okay.
There's the what is the one that the rally race that's called like Dakar or something like that? It's like 5,000 miles across the Sahara Desert.
I think I've heard of that. I never knew. Is it Dakar or something? Or?
Yeah.
I can't quite remember what the.
They're huge. They're very, very big. you know, they go humongous miles. They go across Africa, or they go, you know, across a whole. They'll go from like Spain to Russia. You know, there are these huge sprawling rallies. Gumball was the original one. Is that the Gumball race was for originally? They said, who is going to get this Gumball machine?
Yeah.
And they said, is a car rally places multiple countries, continents, featuring luxury vehicles, parties, and exclusive experience. The Gumball 3000. This is kind of the idea that I had of what Aetherdrift is the Gumball 3000.
I'm seeing a Marathon des Sables. It looks like it's like a French word.
Yeah.
It's a 7-day, 160-mile race.
Exactly. This is what Aetherdrift kind of seems like.
Okay.
So you have people in Kaladesh, now called Avishkar, we'll talk about that in a second, saying, we're going to travel from Avishkar. We're going to start. You can build all kind of crazy contraptions. You need to race all the way from Avishkar to Merganda to Amonkhet and back again. Okay, you're going to go in a big circle, basically. I think. I'm not sure of the track. I don't know if you need to finish in Amonkhet or if you need to go all the way back to Avishkar.
And do you have to like follow a certain path, or is just
it's going to be, the race is going to be laid out for you, basically.
Okay, gotcha.
So you have to do it, and you have to beat there, and obviously there's going to be a lot of shenanigans and other things going on the way, and they're going to use the Omenpath. So you're going to drive through, go through an Omenpath, drive, go through an Omenpath, drive, and then end up at the end. Oh,
so they have to use the Omenpaths to complete the race. Okay, that's pretty cool.
That's why you're jumping. Cool. It's an interplanetary. It's an interplanar race.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes it cooler. Because that's not really something that like anyone has ever done before, and something you could only do with Magic.
You could only do with Magic, and you could only do with Omenpaths.
Now, here's my question to all of it. It sounds like we're on to something here with just the IP and this being its own thing. Why did we need I know why we quote unquote needed Universes Beyond, but like, where does that come into all of this then? Are they just like meshing superheroes into this shit, or what's happening?
So in the official release, I don't believe that Universes Beyond is canon in the Magic timeline.
Okay.
So even though the game of Magic has, you may be able to summon Spider-Man or whatever,
they don't add it to the lore.
He's not added into the lore.
Okay, so we're gonna have basically Magic cards in all of these sets that are coming out that aren't part of the lore then.
Yeah, they're part of the Universes Beyond lore. Magic, which is what people have a problem with.
Okay.
Magic is becoming an IP in its own franchise.
I think it is one. Yeah.
Yeah. Magic, the idea of the multiplanar IP of Magic cards is its own IP in. So you have the Magic universe setting, and then you'll have Marvel setting, and then you'll have Final Fantasy setting. And they're all can be played with Magic rules, but they're different IPs essentially in that setting. And
we're going to have Universes Beyond lore for Aetherdrift in addition to the Magic lore then?
No, it's completely different. Okay. It's its own self-contained lore.
But since we have Universes... Yes, that's what I'm saying. So like, Universes Beyond has its own lore.
Yes.
Right?
It doesn't have lore. It's just there for cards.
Oh, it's just the cards. And it's just like, hey, this is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He's in your Aetherdrift set or whatever set.
Yeah.
And put him in your red deck.
Yeah. Because again, essentially tying back to the original idea that we were talking about, you are a planeswalker grabbing everything from the universe.
Oh, so they're just basically saying, well, hey, these things are included in the universe now.
Exactly.
Okay.
They're saying that the Magic IP can cross every universe, and as a planeswalker, you were powerful enough to summon Chandra, the planeswalker, and Spider-Man at the same time.
Okay.
And Cloud Strife.
And SpongeBob.
And SpongeBob. You can do all of these things because the power of Magic is you can pull from any existing universe.
So, I mean, we're just kind of at the point finally now where it's like, well, we have all of this stuff and all of these other figures created. We have discussed the power of all of these beings for decades now. And it would be irresponsible if we didn't include that they can just conjure, or like you said, summon whatever other entity in other IPs that may be very powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I mean,
basically, that's how they're lampshading the idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. I mean, at least they can like try to justify it in a way.
I mean, theoretically, they could.
Yeah. Like at least they thought about it enough to like push it in such a way, rather than just say, okay, have fun with your, with your Spider-Man and Thanos and, and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde sets or whatever. I mean, that's at least there's like some thought behind it, and at least like there's planning, which I think is, there has to be some planning, but at least there's planning for like how to integrate it rather than just throwing shit in there. So I feel a little bit less bad about it, especially now knowing, because like I thought that when it was a Universes Beyond set, that it was going to be like no magic characters or like very like little magic characters.
Yeah, there's not really going to be, but they all mix together. It's just going to be from that IP. But when you're playing a standard card, you're essentially, Well,
because I just think about, like the one I'm the most familiar with obviously is like the Lord of the Rings one. Mm-hmm. And like there were like most of the cards in there were Lord of the Rings characters.
Yeah.
But
all of them were.
Okay, yeah, all of them were. But there also like wasn't really, which I mean, if you ask me, Lord of the Rings is one of the most compatible with crossing over into Magic. I think that's one of the that, and like you were saying, like maybe Dark Souls, something, or like Elden Ring, whatever. But so are we saying that Aetherdrift will not have any Magic characters in the cards? Then
it does. Aetherdrift does. Aetherdrift is Magic IP.
Okay. Yeah. And so are all the Universes Beyond coming out this year Magic IP?
No. The two Universes Beyond are going to be Final Fantasy and Spider-Man.
Okay. So
they're going to have absolutely no effect on the Magic IP.
I see.
The cards are just legal.
And they're just standard legal, and it's just like, hey, here's these cards.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That is like, that's a lot more clear, because when I heard that Aetherdrift was a was a Universes Beyond, I was like, okay, well...
No, it's not a Universes Beyond.
It's not?
No, Aetherdrift is not a Universes Beyond. It's Magic IP.
I thought that they said that there were 3 this year.
I believe there's only 2. There's 4 standard and 2 universes.
2025? Let me see. I thought it was supposed to be... Yeah, see, it's 3 and 3. Or... Yeah. So a whopping 3 Universes Beyond sets to go along with 3 in-world Magic sets.
Oh, we don't have the 4th one. That's the 6th one.
Oh, so the 3 Universes Beyond is Final Fantasy, Spider-Man, and then the UUB that we don't know of yet.
Yeah, we don't know what that is.
Oh, okay. So that's actually... So like the last 2 of the year will be Universes Beyond. And okay, so Aetherdrift is going to have no Universes Beyond cards.
No,
then, is what you're...
no. Aetherdrift, Tarkir, and Edge of Eternities, which is the space set, is going to be... Those are all going to be Magic IP.
You know what I thought it was? I thought, like... Are you looking at, like, the graphic where there's, like, 3 on top and 3 on the bottom?
I am. Yeah, you thought the 3...
Like, I thought the 3 on top was Universes Beyond. Okay, so I feel dumb now. That makes more sense. Okay, sure. Now I get it. Aetherdrift is just straight Magic. We're doing the thing. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm actually more excited for Aetherdrift now, but also a little bit less excited for the end of the year, but maybe more exciting once they tell us what that 3rd one is.
To me, Final Fantasy makes perfect sense, and I think it's going to be a banger.
I think Final Fantasy is compatible. Yeah,
I think it's compatible. Spider-Man, as much as I like Spider-Man,
that's a little weird.
That one is. I realize there's a lot of fantasy elements and high-tech elements, and
that, and like some of the villains I think are like semi-comparable to people that we've had in this, but at the same time, like the overall story, like, is there enough?
Yeah, my biggest issue is like it takes place on Earth, like it takes place in New York.
Yeah, so it's like Magic has never gone to Earth before.
Yeah, and the only time that it has is for the one that everyone hated, which was Walking Dead.
Oh, I don't even count that. But yes,
Yeah.
I understand. Okay, yeah, so that happens. And okay, but I'm not gonna lie, I want to know what the Venom card is. Obviously it's gonna be a mono black card. I am excited for that.
I am excited for the Venom card, and I feel like it's going to be an equipment. I feel like a symbiote is going to be something you're going to equip.
Because it like becomes the thing, and anything can become it, or it can become anything.
I'm sure that Venom is probably going to be a mono black sacrifice, destroy creature, you gain its powers.
Okay,
because that's what Venom does. He sucks. He absorbs things.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I'm excited about that.
That's my guess. I'm sure Carnage is probably going to be a Rakdos version of that.
It's pretty cool too.
So that could be fun, and I'm sure they'll have a symbiote that is like an enchantment or an artifact that is attach a symbiote. They become a symbiote version of that creature, and they gain +1/+1 and first strike and
whatever. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They like build off of. It's almost like slivers.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's cool. So now I understand that a little bit better. I don't know if everybody watching understood that way better than I did, so I'm sorry if I delayed our progression by just me wildly not understanding that.
This is the worst thing that's ever happened to
me. We can never get this time back.
We can never get this time back. What you've just said is the most moronic, idiotic thing I've ever heard.
Everyone in the room is now dumber.
Everyone in the room is now dumber for having heard it.
May God have mercy on your soul.
I award you no points. And may God have mercy on your soul.
One of the best references.
I know, it's probably one of the best monologues from any movie.
Yeah, I agree.
To be perfectly honest. So
I agree.
That's where we're headed. So we have an Aetherdrift race. Let me finish up the ties here to tie it all together with Aetherdrift, put a bow on it. The winner of the Aetherdrift race gets the Aether Spark, which is a weird looking thing that looks like, as a matter of fact, it kind of looks like the Matrix of Leadership from Transformers. I don't know if that's on purpose. I don't know how big of a Transformers fan you are.
Not really. Megan Fox was like hot in the movie, but that was about it.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. So the Matrix of Leadership really looks like the Aether Spark. And we don't know what this does exactly. Obviously, it says it's called an Aether Spark. We think it gives people Planeswalker powers.
Okay. So they're just like giving that out as an award for winning a race?
That's the award. Yeah.
Wow, that could get out of hand.
That could get out of hand. So imagine like a fucking team of goblins who probably has some sort of trash cart that they put together. They become Planeswalkers and they just go around and do goblin shit forever.
Well, think about it. It's like, that's like if, and maybe it's out there, if they had some like black market style race and then the winner gets like a freaking nuclear bomb.
Exactly. That's like,
like just
how you get one nuclear bomb in a suitcase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can blow up this country if you
you can just take it and you're allowed to have it. Nobody can stop you.
And nobody stops it and it's normal. It's commonplace.
If you win,
And this is like celebrated.
No, I mean essentially is that's like what they're giving out. It's like,
I mean, when you consider that it is the spark of a planeswalker, that's the power that they can wield.
We think that's what it is. We don't know for sure.
Oh, okay, sure, okay.
Yeah.
But it's got to be something powerful, though. It sounds like.
Yeah.
For this to be a juicy part of the story, so to speak.
Yeah, because we see the blank card. We saw what the blank card looks like in the art.
That thing was crazy. That looks like a freaking nuke, doesn't it?
It looks like, I mean, it looks like the Matrix of Leadership. The thing is they left the text blank, and we can see that it has loyalty counters on it. Yeah. So it's a Planeswalker artifact.
That's gonna do stuff.
So we don't know what that is. We don't know what a Planeswalker artifact. We've never had an artifact that's a Planeswalker.
It's gonna be like your chase card, probably for the set.
Yeah, it is. I think there's only 500 of the premium version. I
did see that the one they had was serialized. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is a very mysterious type of equipment. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know where we're going or what we're doing.
Oh dear.
So that is where we're going. That is Planeswalkers. That is the state of Planeswalkers currently, and where they're headed. Will anybody get back their powers in time? We don't know. We're going back to Tarkir. Maybe we're going to see Ugin. He might be back. We're going to be going into outer space. This line of, by the way, this line of the story of Kellen and Oko and this chapter of the Magic story is going to end with Edge of Eternities this year. So next year, this line of things, Edge of Eternities is a grand finale.
Okay.
So we are closing the end of a long chapter that started, I think, post in Aftermath, basically.
Okay. That's good to know. I didn't know where we were at with that kind of stuff. And
it's a 3-year story cycle, I believe.
Which is, that's the standard cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. They're smarter than we gave them credit for.
Oh, they have they have these planned out. They know what they're working on for 2 years from now. They're already working on the cards. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna let them do their thing then, because they have this under control more than I thought they did.
Yeah, it is an interesting way of doing things. It's going to slowly progress. We're going to see more and more. We're going to see more and more things happening, and we'll see what happens. We'll for the most part, we're gonna wait to see where the story goes. I'm interested in seeing this death race stuff. I initially, when I just heard about a multiplanar crazy race, it looks more like an actual scheduled race. I thought it was going to be a Mad Max style. I thought it was going to be like Amonkhet is invaded by like wasteland marauders. I think there's going to be some aspects of that in it, but I thought it was going to be like a total Mad Max set. It looks more like a actual like Grand Prix set. So
yeah, I think they were talking about Grand Prix in the Magic weekly stream this past week. I did see that, but I think maybe there could be like bad actors within.
I'm sure. So, there's people going to be sabotaging. Yeah,
people who are trying to sabotage or fix the race so they can get influence and they can get the thing. There's going to be maybe people who try to like jump into the race, steal stuff, whatever, outside interference, whatever. I mean, it's kind of it's an exciting thing where like I think it is cool because it's like anything can happen. So that is cool. So I'm a little more in on the concept of races, whereas before I was like, this is kind of like, what are we doing? But I think it makes more sense now when you set something up for it. So yeah, I think it's good, and I'm sure they'll make something of it. So I'm happy about that. As of right, and I guess we don't really have many spoilers right now, or like we don't. Like hardly any.
We've seen a couple of cards. We know some vague things. We're not really hitting spoilers, I think, till the new year.
Okay, that's understandable because they want to close things out and and get as much like hype it up for the end of the year, but also like just let the holidays be the holidays and then go hard in the new year and get everything coming out. Okay, yeah, sure, that makes sense. So we're looking at having spoilers come out, then we're going to know like, okay, who's going to be in these races, who's going to be in charge of prizes, and who runs this show even. Because I think that's interesting. Yeah. So who has the power to just make this spark thing? I think that's going to be super relevant. So like, is there a powerful person? Are they what motives do they have in giving
maybe the whole thing is a trick that Nicol Bolas did to free himself.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like why would you just give this away? Are there strings attached? Do they have a motive for like, oh well, if these guys win, then we can get them to do this with the power? Like what? Yeah. So there's like, you got to assume that like nobody's acting in good faith here for what's at stake, for what you're trying to win. So that's very interesting. I think you can do a lot with this, and I think that it definitely this info in our episode today, I think that's helped me a lot personally.
Good.
I have to commend Jay on these episodes because, as you see, he talks a lot during these lore episodes. And he didn't. We didn't like have this really plan on what we were going to talk about till about 20 minutes before the episode. So he's kind of going like off the top of the dome right now on all
Mostly,
of it that he just gave you.
I checked a couple of wikis to make sure I wasn't putting out flagrant misinformation.
But like how he organized it, that's just, you know what I mean? And like I just kind of let him do his thing, and I try to clarify things for you guys and for myself. But yeah, I got to give kudos to Jay here. Jay does a really good job with these, and just obviously knowing them in general, we're pretty thankful for that.
Thank you, man.
Of course.
And I think the last word that we're going to say is a note, because to me, it's a blip.
Okay.
The change of Kaladesh to Avishkar.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care.
Avishkar sounds cool.
Avishkar sounds cool. Frankly, in my opinion, there was too many K themed. There was Kaladesh. Kaldheim. There's another one.
Yeah.
What's the other one? List of planes. Here we go.
There's Tarkir, which has that.
Tarkir.
It's like in the middle, you know, like
there's a lot of not planeswalkers, not list of planeswalkers, list of planes. Thank you. God. Okay, Kaldheim, Kamigawa, Kylan,
yeah,
Kalim.
Sure.
So there's a lot of
ones that start with K.
There's a lot of ones that start with A. Here's the thing. I feel like they did it well. They said, listen, it can be perceived as something offensive. We don't want to do that.
What's offensive about Kaladesh?
So Kala, it's supposed to be Kaladesh, and everyone says Kaladesh. And I guess not saying Kala, but Kala means dark. And it can be used as kind of a slur against somebody.
I see.
Calling them kind of.
In what language is that?
Hindi, I believe.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a lot of issues with, skin color and the caste system in India.
That is a big thing. Yes,
that's a big thing.
True.
So saying someone is Kala, you're saying that you're dark skinned. It's obviously can be perceived as racially insensitive.
Okay. Well, that's really good to know. I didn't know that.
People can say, "Oh, well, people get hurt feelings," and I said, "Listen, they're not doing it. I don't feel like they're doing it out of." Part of it is they don't want to upset people, but also there's a billion people in the world that are Indian. They're not trying to.
Do you know how many people are in India, dude?
Not only that, there's a lot of Americans that are in any market. They're Indian.
Sure.
They're not trying to have a potential. I mean, if a Japanese company put out a product in America that was a slur, they'd be like, "Whoops, we want people to buy it. We don't want people to be mad at it."
Yeah, we're gonna change that name. Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. Well, also like. That one, like, okay, we have the caste system, and like the caste system, like, still affects
modern day
people today.
Yeah.
And equally, India like has like slavery still, basically.
Yeah, it's not great.
So like there's big issues in India, and you don't want to like
it's a lot of
even if it's not
issues.
Offensive, you don't want to like allude to something like terrible that's happening actively in the world that we live in right now. But that's also conversely where Jay and I are big on the whole tribal thing. So we don't feel like saying tribal was actively impacting anyone. Because like most Native Americans who belong to tribes didn't care about that. And it doesn't like they're like, yeah, that's what we call ourselves. It was never derogatory.
Yeah.
So that one we always felt was a little more weird. I'm a little more on board with this one now that you say it like that. And yeah, don't piss off 1 billion people.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. Don't piss off like 1/7 of the world.
They handled it well. They said, "Listen, this could be perceived as bad. We didn't intend it to." And I think, in my opinion, where they said, "We're not going back and changing it. We're not going to retroactively retcon Kaladesh
like reprint cards."
Yeah,
and stuff.
We're not saying you can't say Kaladesh anymore. They're like, Kaladesh exists. We're coming up with an in-lore reason why they changed it back to Avishkar.
Okay.
So they say, after the consuls fell, a new government took over. They said, we're not called. It's the same way that like Burma and Myanmar changed their name, We're a new country. We're not going to be called Kaladesh. That's the past. We're going to be called Avishkar. That's the future.
Well, they implemented it well too, so that's good.
Yeah, people are going to be upset. I honestly don't care. I didn't even really like the Kaladesh block that much, anyway. So I have so little dog in the fight.
I wasn't like playing Magic when it was out, so I'm very indifferent towards all of that, basically.
Yeah. So I'm not an artifact player, so I'm not like woo. But to me it's literally a non-issue. I don't think it matters.
I think it always kind of comes down to like how do they go about it, and it sounds like they went about it in a reasonable and like deliberate way that aligns with your story, doesn't mess up any previous work that you've done, and sets it up to be still like a good concept and a good situation in the future. So like when we talk about, we know they're doing this, we're not sure how we feel about it, but it all matters on how they do it. I think the how here is good. So I think that's another reason why I'm okay with it.
Yeah. So it's fine. I whatever.
Yeah.
I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill, and we'll
I'm
see
not
what
losing
happens.
sleep over that.
I'm not losing sleep over
I don't
it.
think it's worth it for most people to lose sleep over that.
No.
Especially for how far back it was. You're still gonna have those cards that you had. And it still has the same symbol and it still says what it says. And there you go. And now we're going to the new thing, and get ready for new cards, because
exactly
shit keeps moving.
So that's it. That's our episode. That's going to be our lore episode on Planeswalkers, Aetherdrift, and all that. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. You like those? If you like these episodes, shoot us a like. Yeah.
If you guys have any questions about the lore, feel free to ask Jay.
Yeah,
he will definitely keep you up to date on the lore. And yeah, it's really interesting for me. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. I'm actually now more excited for Aetherdrift after we did this, so I am pretty happy that we did this. Hopefully this helps you guys get a little more excited for Aetherdrift as well. And yeah, get ready. We're going to have probably one more episode coming out this year.
Our year in review.
It's going to be our year in review.
End of the year, and probably about a week or two.
And then we're hoping that come January, we're going to be in spoiler season for Aetherdrift. And maybe our first episode of the year is going to be, either some spoilers, or depending how far along we get in January, maybe we have enough to do our top 10. So we're going to see how all that plays out, and we're going to be coming at you in 2025.
Yeah,
that sounds weird. With some Aetherdrift stuff and some new set stuff, and we won't say too much about the year that we've had, but the council has had a great year this year.
Oh yeah, we'll go over that next time,
and we're thankful for it, and we are eager to have another great year next year.
Absolutely. So, that all being said, we'll call this episode of the council to a close. Thank you all for coming. We'll see you in the next one.
Take care.
Bye bye.